In this video, I'll be explaining how to use the toolbar in FL Studio. If you already know how to use FL Studio or have been producing for a while already, you should still stick around for some secret knowledge about the toolbar you probably don't know. The toolbar is important for navigation of the DAW and useful tools. At the top of FL Studio, this is the toolbar. Starting from the bottom left side and then going right. We're starting with the bottom left because we have the hint panel. This is actually super useful and I wish every software would learn from this. Anytime you put your mouse over something inside the DAW, the hint panel will explain what your mouse is on and gives you a description or an idea of what it is. It will also show you hotkeys for that same tool or highlighted feature that you're hovering over with your mouse. Going up to the tabs, the File tab is for saving, loading, accessing backups, and exporting audio. The Edit tab is literally useless. It just tells you that you can use the undo function with Ctrl-Z. The Add tab is okay for adding plugins, specifically VSTs, into your project, but there are better and faster methods of adding VSTs to the channel rack than using this. The Patterns tab is actually pretty useful and could really come in handy for you. Something that you may not know is the tools that comes with patterns. Like being able to find the first available free MIDI pattern number is really helpful for speeding up the workflow. And you can even customize your patterns and change their looks and rename the patterns to keep it better organized. The transpose feature allows you to move all notes in that pattern up or down in semitones. I think you know what all of these features do, but at the bottom there are some really useful ones that allow you to work even faster in FL Studio. Split by channel would have saved me a lot of time as a beginner producer in FL. When you're getting ideas out really quickly, it's really common to stack a lot of MIDI into one pattern so you can make sure everything works well together inside the track. But this has its issues because what if I don't want the bass or the kick in just yet? What if I only want to start with piano and then build my way into the track more? Well, if you didn't know about this feature, you'd have to go into each VST's piano roll and use Ctrl-A to select all the notes, then Ctrl-X to cut the notes, meaning delete and copy, then change over to the next pattern, open the piano roll again, and press Ctrl-V. Now that isn't too bad, but when you stack up a lot of different MIDI, the time to do this over and over really adds up quickly. What Split by Channel does is every VST that is assigned to a channel, as seen here on the left side of the channel rack with these numbers, when you press Split by Channel, it will give every pattern its own name and number, making this process instant so you can focus on composing more quickly. Another super helpful thing to do with the Pattern tab is using the Quick Export to Audio function. This turns MIDI into an audio sample, which in some cases is really useful when you want to flip a sample, but you don't want to rewrite the MIDI. Like if I don't want to change the notes, but I want to reverse something, you can export it to audio and then reverse the sample of the MIDI you just played. The View tab is mainly for navigation and customization. Pause the video if you want to look through some of these settings right here, and most of the stuff in this tab is pretty self-explanatory. The Options tab is pretty much what you expect from an Options tab, except you can also control all these switches down here in the drop-down menu from the buttons visible next to the tempo. The options themselves is something you guys can go through on your own, and I don't want to bore you by going over all these options. However, I will cover this one, the Manage Plugins. This is the place where FL Studio will reference your VSTs and plugins that are installed. The FL Studio folder is where the FL Studio is stored on your device. The box right below it is the files FL Studio will look at when you try to use a plugin. So if you want to add a special plugin, make sure you add the folder you installed the plugin at. Normally, plugins will install into the default folder, but if you want to save space and move things around, you can add your own plugin install folder by this button right here. You can pretty much copy all the settings I have here. Once you've installed a plugin, you will not be able to see it in this list just yet, until you press the Find Installed Plugins at the top. Then we'll show you this long drop-down list, and all the new plugins will be highlighted in orange. Give it a star so it'll be visible inside the plugin list for using. The Tools tab in the toolbar holds a well-kept secret to FL Studio that would save many producers all around the world. You see, FL Studio is a lot like the CIA. It's always recording. MIDI, that is. Meaning anytime you press a key to trigger MIDI in FL Studio, it's recorded and saved. At least 30 minutes of MIDI is always saved. If you want to redeem your MIDI care package and recover that super sick melody you didn't even mean to play when you were jamming to your track, you simply just have to select the pattern you would like to save it to, and then press Dump Score Log to Selected Pattern. This means you will never be struck with the recording weakness that makes us all mess up the second we see that little red evil button light up. Another very powerful thing is the Last Tweaked tool. This allows you to add automation to third-party plugins that don't support the native right-click function of adding an automation clip. meaning you can pretty much automate anything in FL Studio you want. Going back to the top of the Tools tab is a handy little tool called the Riff Machine. Once you press it, this will add a VST called Citrus, and it will put a somewhat customizable riff editor. Here you can customize the progression, chords, arpeggiation, flips and mirrors, levels, note length, micro note length, and control the scale of the riff being made. This is not a generator, but it's more of like a random preset selector with controls over some variables. I'm not going to really go over the Help tab. You can look through it yourself, but I will say if you buy FL Studio and you want to activate it, then you go to Help and press Unlock Account. The rest of the toolbar should go faster than the tabs. And at any point you forget what these buttons do, you can always look at the hint panel to see what it is. These two knobs right here are for the master volume and master pitch. Normally, you don't really want to touch these, and if you do mess with them, it will export with these changes made to the actual track. So if you find that your track is oddly quiet and you're not sure why, you could look at this knob and see if it's not at 100%. The button that says Pat and has Song underneath it is just an indicator for what mode you are listening to in FL Studio. In pattern mode, you will hear patterns from the channel rack or from the piano roll if you're using MIDI notes. Song mode indicates that you are listening from the playlist and hearing your song, not the patterns. Play, stop, record. Then you have the tempo. And if you want to set the speed at which your track plays at, then you can right-click the numbers or put your mouse over the big numbers specifically and drag up or down. The reason why we click and drag on the big numbers is because FL Studio allows you to do fractions of whole numbers for the tempo. These fractions are almost unnoticeable and you're pretty much better off not touching this ever. Unless you want to do it for the meme, then, hey, go ahead. Again, these buttons are the switches from the Tools tab, like the metronome, and some recording ease of life settings. Turning your keyboard into a MIDI controller, auto scroll for juicy music videos, step editing mode allows you to control the piano roll without the mouse, and you will probably never use it. Enable note/clip groups. This function, I'll be honest, you'll probably never use it either. And the multi-link to controller is for people who have MIDI controllers and want to link up multiple knobs to one trigger or knob on your physical MIDI controller itself. Useful for performers particularly, or people who want to record sessions of MIDI playing. This is the snap tool and it will change the snap of your grid on the playlist. Useful sometimes, but normally I never touch it. This number up here is the song position indicator. And if you left click it, you can flip between either counting bars from the playlist or seconds of time in length. Pattern selector I covered in this video right here. Go ahead and watch that one if you haven't seen it. Above that, you have some monitors which can give you information about the software's CPU usage, your left and right channel levels, and a spectrograph to see the wave of your track. Undo button, but you should just use Ctrl-Z. This opens a plugin called Edison. It's FL Studio's built-in audio editor. Edison deserves its own video for sure, so we won't cover it right now. This turns on one-click recording, help, save, render audio, view project information, load the FL forum, and these four are to view the different windows in FL Studio. And actually, sometimes these are pretty helpful because if you happen to accidentally close out one of the windows by mistake by hitting this little X, this is how you quickly bring that window back. Or you can also use the hotkeys that are listed here in the hint panel. Show browser, open project, open plugin picker, tap your own tempo, touchpads, and then the news window. Clicking on this will open the FL store, and also this little box will tell you if you ever need to have any updates for your software. Congratulations, you now know about the toolbar. I hope this video helps you navigate FL Studio and makes you a faster and more efficient producer. If this feels like it still was confusing or hard to understand and you want a more personal experience for learning music production, you can always go over to my website and book a private one-on-one lesson with me where I can explain how to use FL Studio the best for you specifically. The first lesson is free, so you can try it out and see how you like it, and then go from there. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'm SoundNinja, you've been awesome, and the link to my Discord is in the description. Go join.